So we've got a top story for you this morning. It's something that we're watching very closely, this deadly bomb cyclone that's impacting the Northeast. The violent winds have knocked down trees. They are destroying homes. Take a look at some of the latest we're getting in.
You can hear just how strong those winds are. At least 5 people are now reported dead as a result of this storm, and the worst isn't over yet. The torrential rains now causing widespread flooding. Another major concern, the violent winds tearing down power lines. More than 1 million people are without power from Virginia to New England.
Massachusetts is seeing the worst of it with more than 400,000, and there are state of emergencies in Virginia and Maryland as well this morning.
Let's get right over to CNN's Ryan Young. He's live in Quincy, Massachusetts. That's just south of Boston. Ryan, officials there are expecting, unfortunately, that there could be homes lost in this storm. You're in the worst of it. What are you seeing?
Yeah, homes could be lost. We know more than 70 people were rescued from their homes just yesterday during the height of the storm. It's hard to hear you guys. All the wind that's blowing, you can see the position some people were left in. This car just sitting in a lot of water that was left here as people tried to evacuate. This was a tough 24 hours for people who were trying to deal with this storm. Coastal communities in Massachusetts pounded by monster waves. High tide sent water rolling down streets and into homes. In Quincy, dozens of residents had to be rescued by trucks and scooped up by front loaders. Christine Waycotter was one of those getting a ride out of danger.
It's kind of scary because we were the ones standing up on it and having to hold on. But we're lucky. It's just things that will get lost.
Storm conditions are expected to improve on Saturday, but the wind is still a factor, so is coastal flooding. Near Portland, Maine, storm surge left this home teetering on the edge of the Atlantic Ocean.
The plan is to lift it and move it back a little bit, I believe, but it's a lot of things that have to happen before that happens, so we're just trying to keep it from going anywhere.
You feel bad for the people, but that comes with having a house on the water. Ocean winds, you lose.
Another issue is power outages. In Watertown, Massachusetts, high winds made power lines fall like dominoes.
We had traffic lights all over town that were out there affected by this grid, but the first responding Eversource troubleman, he isolated the area, had him shut the circuit off, because as you can see, the wires were over cars, and it was a pretty dangerous situation.
One woman in Brocktown, Massachusetts says her son is lucky to be alive. He was sitting in the backseat of a car when a tree came crashing down.
The house shook, and then we heard a noise. We didn't know what it was. We ran out. My son was still in the car with the tree on top of it.
Now, look, last night we talked to people who had evacuated from some of these homes at a hotel. They were telling us, look, they love this area. They love being able to be so close to the ocean, and they know that sometimes they pay for that. But they never expected this to be this powerful. The 3 high tides back to back, and of course, we could get more water today, so everyone's sort of looking toward the ocean to see if they'll give them a break. Mother Nature has been unrelenting for some. In fact, as the light comes up, we can see a couple structures that have been damaged from the heavy winds. You're talking about some 70 miles per hour at some point. So you understand what people are going through for the last few hours. And a lot of power is out. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as we're able to survey the damage throughout the day. Guys?
Yeah, I definitely will, Ryan. We'll be back in touch with you. Be careful out there. Thank you.
Those pictures are something. Hanging out of that baby there, obviously, for dear life. More than 1 million people, in fact, don't have power, as he was just talking about. I want to go to Allison Chinchar because this is such a severe storm. We know that there are 3,000 flights in the storm's path that have already been canceled. Amtrak was forced to cancel its service. It should resume, we're told, later this morning, though.
Meanwhile, more images of the impact are just pouring in. Just look at the power of that surf. The waves just going almost as high as the rooftops there. And there could be even more flooding, as we've already said, throughout the day today. The flooding here, take a look in Boston. Parts of that city are underwater. But some are not having any fun with this flooding. Take a look at this. A kayaker, actually he is enjoying the water, paddling down a waterlogged Boston street. The National Guard, though, had to rescue 50 people from their homes in nearby Quincy. And it wasn't just high winds. Heavy, wet snow and sleet fell across major cities like New York and Philadelphia.
Okay, so now we go to meteorologist Allison Shinshar, who's live in the CNN Severe Weather Center, talking about the bomb cyclone. And let's remember, Allison, we still have the last and third tidal cycle of this to go yet this morning.
That's right, yeah. And so you talk about the word that you use, bomb cyclone. So many people don't really understand what that is. So let's break it down for you. Meteorologically speaking, it is a strong storm when the atmospheric pressure drops at least 24 millibars in 24 hours or less. In layman's terms, what this really just means for us is this is a storm that rapidly intensifies. And these usually go on to be incredibly powerful storms. And that was the case with this particular storm. Just look at some of the really strong wind gusts that came in. Barnstable, Massachusetts, 93 miles per hour. Nantucket, Massachusetts, 90 miles per hour. Even Boston picking up a wind gust of 70 miles per hour. So let's talk about where the storm is now. Here's where it was located on Friday, but it's already started to make its way off the coast, now fully off the coast. However, I want to emphasize, even though the center of the storm may be off the coast right now, it's still producing some pretty big impacts. Flooding is going to be a big concern going forward. High tide for Boston is expected around noon today. For Portland, Maine, you're talking just before that, maybe a few minutes shy of noon. So that's going to be a big concern, but also winds. Now, this is going to be the longer of the concern because this is going to last well into the day Sunday. You can see we have those high wind warnings and advisories still in effect. We're still talking wind gusts right now in Nantucket, 51 miles per hour. So Martin and Christy, the thing about the winds that's so important, you talked about that number of people that are already without power. That number is likely going to get worse before it gets better, since the wind is not expected to really come down until tomorrow.
All righty, Allison Shinshar, thank you so much. We appreciate it.